The purpose of this video is to show you guys how we're going to properly set up and execute a row for maximizing or optimizing or just like whatever gym nerd term you want to use to get the most stimulation for your lats with each and every single rep that you're doing. So before I get into the specific row for your lats, I'm going to go through some cues that if your goal is lats, whatever you're doing, whether it's a pull down, a row, or like any variation with your goal of being lats, these are the cues that you need to be following. So the first one is that you want your torso to remain stationary throughout. When we're performing an exercise for a specific muscle, we always want the insertion to move towards the origin. And in this case, the insertion is on the back of the upper arm, which is moving towards the origin. And for the lats, it's mostly the spine. You don't want the origin of the muscle to move much. So in the case of this exercise, like the spine mostly. So our torso, we want to keep that from moving so we can keep the origin in one place. The second cue you want to make sure you're following when doing any lat focused movement is you want to make sure that your forearm and the resistance of the exercise are in the same line throughout the majority of the exercise. It won't be like a perfectly straight line, but it should be relatively close. When you're using an exercise with the cable, that's fairly easy to see just because the line of the cable is the line of the resistance. And then for machines, you want that handle and your forearm to be in the same line. Throughout the entire range of motion, you want to hold a neutral grip. There is no need to do any excessive rotating of your arm, as the lats don't have any function in doing that. When it comes to an initiation cue to use your lats to start the very first motion of whatever exercise you're doing, the cue you want to follow is to think of driving your elbow down. And then as you're performing the exercise, you want to make sure that your arm path is staying relatively close to your torso throughout the entire range of motion. So no matter whether you're doing a row, a pull down, or any exercise where lats are your goal, you want to make sure that those cues are being followed. But now I'm going to move into specifically what I want you to make sure you're doing when you're doing a row. So when it comes to setting this exercise up, posture-wise, we want to make sure that you have like your chest up or like the proud chest position, but that doesn't necessarily mean like a super arched lower back. You want to still keep a braced core. And then for a row for your lats, just supported machines are great, but if you're performing exercises like I am in these examples, if you don't have a chest support, you want to make sure that you are stabilizing your hip. So whether that's with the foot of the pulling arm, like I'm doing in this row, or like the pad of the machine tight on top of your upper leg. So like I mentioned in the beginning part of this video, we want to make sure that you're initiating the concentric. The first thing that moves is your elbow coming down. But what will vary between this for a horizontal row like this and maybe a pull down is what you're going to do. So once we start, so I initiate with my elbow coming down right away, so down. And then what will be different between a pull down and for a row like this is once you start with the initiation of elbow down, you're going to finish the row by pulling your elbow back. The transition from the cue of elbow down to elbow back should be smooth. You don't want, like even though you're thinking of this, if someone is watching you perform these reps, to them it'll just look like one smooth coordinated movement. And then the final cue to think of to finish the last like 1 inch of this rep will be to think about wrapping your arm around your torso. So right about there, right here, the last inch or two of this rep, I am thinking of taking my elbow and kind of like wrapping it around in this direction. And it won't be anything excessive. It'll like the last 1 to 2 inches just to help you get a little bit deeper into that shortened position. And the return experience is going to be a pretty gnarly contraction in your lat. And then some cues to make sure you're following when doing the eccentric portion of this rep is to one, make sure that your shoulder stays down. As you're doing the eccentric, you want to reach out in the direction that that machine or the cable or whatever the resistance is pulling you. And you want to make sure that you're not doing any excessive rotating of your arm, so any internal or external rotation. You want to make sure that you're keeping that neutral grip throughout the entire range of motion. Once you can get your setup and your execution for this row correct, in order to get your lats to grow, you are just going to have to train super fucking hard, train like savage, eat a bunch of food, and then do that for months. There's no shortcut around it. Like you just got to put your head down and do the work and let the results speak for themselves. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment below and tell me which cue you found the most useful to you. If you have a friend who has a small back and you see them not following these cues, share this video with them. If you're interested in anything else I have in the name of just getting you fucking yacked, you can head to my website at evolutionaryaesthetics.com. On there, I've got a series of workout programs where I have a complete YouTube video breakdown of me just telling you exactly how to follow the program, what the goals of the program are, why I chose the exercises, the rep ranges you're doing, and what reasons for. And those programs are included within what I call progression programming, where I have a current program where people are following, where I have a weekly newsletter where I'll send out certain things about exercises you're doing in that program, any recommendations for what to be doing with your diet, and just making sure that we are progressing through this program as smoothly as possible. And then I'll put a link below for you to subscribe to that weekly newsletter. And even if you aren't following the current program, I would still recommend subscribing to it, as it has other content related to just helping you get fucking yacked. Also on my website is my Potent Priorities ebook, which gives you 4 foundational things you need to be putting the majority of your efforts into in the name of just helping you get fucking yacked, but also feeling good while you do it. Those 4 things are just training in the gym, sleeping, nutrition, and then moving outside of the gym. If you can nail the foundations for all 4 of these things, it will help you reach your best physique as fast as possible. It starts off super basic with things that everyone should be able to do. And then depending on how meticulous you want to be with a plan to help you reach your goals, this book provides you with a framework for how to take a step further. Once you have the foundations nailed, it gives you a step to make things a little bit more meticulous and just to dial things in as much as you can. It's also just got a shit ton of other resources on there of like ways to calculate your daily caloric intake, sample meals, ways to help you fall asleep, ways to be progressing in the gym. You essentially think of this thing as your ultimate guidebook to gains. That's a wrap on this video, and we'll see each other in the next one.